It is News Talk FM 94.3 WRHI, 17 minutes away from 9 o'clock, and Chuck Boozer along with Colleen Brandon. And I've known this stat, and having driven home working late night shifts from time to time. When I worked overnights in Phoenix years and years ago, I would drive home at 6 o'clock in the morning, and the white line that would go down the middle of the freeway, I-17 through Phoenix there, would almost mesmerize me and put me to sleep. And I've heard a stat before, too, and we'll find out if this is the real truth or not, that more than half, or at least half of the deaths on the highway these days are caused by people falling asleep at the wheel. And we sometimes push ourselves farther than we should when we're driving, and a lot of people have accidents and stuff, and we have a tendency to nod off, whether it be sometimes in the middle of the day, late in the afternoon, or if you're on a trip or something like this. But they do have regulations for truckers. They're only allowed to travel so much, supposed to.
Drive so many hours.
Before they're supposed to have a full 8 hours of sleep or something. So let's find out what's going on here. We have a nice person.
Joining us is sleep expert Chris Gaman. Chris, we appreciate you being with us this morning.
Okay, thanks for having me.
And we know that, the CDC has recently released a study talking about 1 in 24 adults that they have admitted to falling asleep, nodding off at the wheel. Is this true?
Yeah, that's what this latest study finds, and that's just what people are reporting, so you can expect the true number maybe even higher than that.
I mean, that's just a little scary.
It really is.
What do we do about this? I mean, I know this is a very real challenge for me. I have to make sure that I am, wide awake if I'm going to be doing any major traveling. But, I think about this statistic, 1 in 24, driving up and down I-95, how many of those people are a little drowsy? It's kind of scary.
Yeah. Yeah, you might be driving to see somebody slam on their brakes at the last second, and you would think, oh, they were distracted, but maybe they were falling asleep. And that's what the study's finding, that more and more often it's actually people who are dozing off, closing their eyes, and falling asleep.
And they slam on their brakes. See, now I never would have assumed that. And you see that happen all the time. You're driving along, and then all of a sudden somebody hits their brakes on the highway. And my first reaction is, why are you braking on the highway? Just let off the gas. You shouldn't have to jam down on your brakes. But really, so a lot of times when people fall asleep, and they hit their brakes.
Yeah, when they wake up anyway.
Do we get mesmerized? Do we get lulled to sleep by the motion of the car, by just that or something, or is it just what makes us? Because it's almost like going to church. You can be fine. You sit down in the pew at church, and all of a sudden you start yawning and stuff. I mean, it's just one of those. Is that just we get into the habit of that or something, or what causes this? Is it just that we are tired, or we need to close our eyes and actually get a little rest?
Well, it may be just because you're that tired. You didn't sleep well enough, you didn't sleep long enough, and you're tired, and regardless of the situation, you're going to be taking a nap. But it could be highway hypnosis, which is kind of what you're talking about, where you become comfortable behind the wheel, and the constant sound from your tires hitting the pavement and perhaps traveling in a straight line for an extended period. It's very soothing to your mind and to your eyes to see the same thing over and over again, and it can actually lull you to a very relaxed state where you're ready to fall asleep. And that's what people refer to as highway hypnosis.
So what can we do? What can you do when you're doing this? And I know I've rolled down the window. I've slapped myself. You've stopped and had coffee. Do you actually stop the car?
On something?
Do you stop the car and get out and walk around to kind of wake yourself back up? And then it seems like you get right back in the car, and I get lulled back in with the highway hypnosis is what you're talking about. What can we do here?
Well, if you're falling asleep, you need to get off the road. You need to find somewhere to go to sleep before you get back in the car. But if you're just feeling tired, you can definitely try and do things like open the windows like you're talking about. I recommend maybe turning on the radio, singing along with a song, counting streets that you're passing, reading out street names out loud, just something to keep your body working, something that will make it more apparent to yourself if you go to sleep, because you'll be talking, and then if you suddenly stop talking, you might actually trigger your brain, and you'll say, hey, why aren't you talking? And then you realize you've actually gone to sleep.
Now, is this more common in men, women? Does it matter?
It is more common in men. The exact reason for that is not known exactly. It may be skewed because of truck drivers. I'm not sure on this stat, but I believe with more male truck drivers and driving those long distances, And truck drivers are prone to having sleep apnea, snoring issues, which is why there is regulation whenever a truck driver, say, has sleep apnea or snoring, that they have to get treatment before they can get back on the road, at least in Texas. I believe that's the same in many states.
And I tell my children, both of my children, sometimes they like to go to concerts that will be down in Atlanta, and I say, I'm okay with this. If you're coming back and they're going to be late, you need to have somebody that's there in the car with you that's going to be awake. Nobody, you don't drive while everybody else sleeps. The two of you need to be there and keep each other awake. And I mean, have a conversation and keep each other awake. Or,
Absolutely.
like you say, Chris, just stop and get off the road and rest. I mean, that's the obvious thing, isn't it?
Right. That really is, the most important thing is to get off the road. If you feel like you're going to go to sleep, get off the road. It will seem like such an inconvenience. Maybe you'll be late for whatever you're going to, but you know what? This study is showing that you are very much more likely to have an accident, and it could be fatal. It could be the last one. And is it worth it?
No.
No, it's not worth it.
Never.
No, it is not. As a sleep expert, Chris, are there any recommendations that you have for us to prepare yourself so that when you do hit the road, you're not sleepy already and that you will stay awake?
I would say definitely to make sure you get some extra sleep the day before. If you're going to be doing a long trip, definitely have somebody in the car, like you're talking about, to keep a conversation with, keep you alert.
Chris, thank you so much. We do appreciate you joining us this morning.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Chris. Good stuff. All right. We have about, you've got some good points. So when people are we're all trying to cram so many things into such a short amount of time and trying to multitask. And sometimes you just have to slow it down a little bit and kind of take it one step at a time.
Well, and it is so disturbing to think about this. 1 in 24 people have admitted, not that it's, and like Chris said, it's probably more than that. But, you're driving down there, and if you've done it, you nod off, and you don't even realize it.
And I do this, but it's called a sleep debt. You run a sleep debt and you can't store sleep. You can't store it and say, well, I'm going to sleep a bunch here because I'm not going to sleep much. But I can do that. I remember sitting on the phone on the couch outside the 104 studios and talking to somebody after 10 o'clock. And I used to go through this period where I could just magically close my eyes. I was on the phone in a conversation and fell asleep on the couch in mid-con. And I remember thinking I was dreaming, somebody going, whack, whack. It was the person on the phone saying, Chuck, are you there? Stupid. Me. 9 minutes away from the top of the hour.